I'm cruising maps and fresh laid grids, Google Earth got the views that hit, no doubt. Seeing streets snap, picture bit by bit. Drag and drop, composers sync like a Photoshop kit. Zoom in and out and watch the world unfold. Streets designed with stories untold in my digital realm. Hey, I'm feeling on top.
Hello yet again, and welcome back to Compositing with Sam. This is, I believe, episode 8. And in this one, we're going to dive into the world of aerials and show you how you can use Beyond Typicals to composite against an aerial image. This one, I'm going to try and do a few tricks, but what you're doing doesn't have to be this complicated. And as a note, you need to have a road that is straight, obviously, but also continuous. You can see we have this one here. This is in Columbus, Ohio. And you need to be mindful of like driveways. Like we have this kind of dustpan driveway down here in the bottom left. We can deal with that because we're not going to put a curb and gutter over here. But you need to be mindful of those because obviously you can't block access. And then also the more driveways you have, the more restricted you are to show things like a raised median, because then the traffic can't cross over to the other side. Businesses might be upset about that. So you need to just kind of zoom in on a part of your project that is typical of the project, obviously, and then you can composite against that. And there's also a video I'll link in this one where I go over more examples with aerial images just to kind of show you some of the other options you have available. But in this one, I want to do this not only because I want to show how aerial photo compositing works, but also we have this rail going over, and I think we can do something cool with that one. All right, so we're going to first just take a screenshot of this image. You can do it from within Google Earth, or you can just take a screenshot here. This should work. And then we're going to go and edit this in GIMP. All right, and as a reminder, I use GIMP because when I was first learning how to do this kind of thing, I couldn't afford Photoshop, and GIMP's free, and so that's how I learned this tool. But I have Photoshop right here on my computer. I could use it. You could use it. All we're trying to do is just use some sort of photo editing tool that we can pull out these foreground elements so that we can have two layers, and we're going to sandwich the 3D sections in between them. So I'm going to use this free select tool, and I want to grab all of the elements that are going to be in front of the image. You do that by starting along here, and then you just need to select the outline of that. And we're not going to worry about the shadows. That's something we're going to take care of in just a little bit.
In the sky, lens zoom tight, capture sight, no stopping. Frame by frame, streets and lines like circuit boards we plot. Prop and twist the art of pics with that drag and drop.
All right, so now we're in Beyond Typicals. This is version 3.0. This is pre-release, but most things should look similar if you're in version 3. And this is the default project, so it'll probably look something like this when you open it. But we want to get a blank project, and then I always go ahead and turn off total width. And then click on the render button, this big red circle, and we want to go to photo compositing tab. We want to import new layer, and we're going to do foregrounds, and then we want to do backgrounds, and then you can see our scales off, and so we need to go back to rendering and do 4K. And we need to make sure that the foreground is in the front and the background is in the back. All right, now we just need to zoom it in just a little bit. 1.1 should be fine. We need to make sure to do that for the background and the foreground. All right, and as always, just make sure you're saving along the way. All right, so now we can build out our road section. We're not gonna do a ton of changes here. We do want to add a bike lane here over here on the right and clean up things a little bit. But the purpose of these compositing videos isn't for in-depth Beyond Typicals work. It's more to show how compositing works. But we have a ton of training videos on our website if you go to beyondtypicals.com and go to the tutorial section. All right, so we brought road in. We can see it's the way we want it to be, but we're going to need to extend that out. So you go to settings, section length. You want this to be as short as possible because it's just going to be easier with the traffic and everything. So you could always extend it out all the way to 1,000, but if you can keep that shorter, I would recommend it. And then we can start building this out. We have 4 lanes in one direction and 2 in the other, I guess 3 lanes in one direction, 2 in the other with this turn lane. We're going to try to keep that in addition to the new bike lane that we're going to be adding as well. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of build through and camera match at the same time.
Logic, composites lit, designs a hit from skyrise to street market. Snap the grid, it's how we live. Pixels caught us talking. Mosaic views that we pursue, no jigsaw, we block it. Angle shots from up top, concrete jungle, we're stalking. Fly with me on this journey, stitch the scenes, we're locking. Got my lens up high, and I'm painting the sky. Snapshots like a hip hop beat. Seeing life in squares, shades of.
All right, so I built out the road section and camera matched it, and you can see it's coming along pretty well, but we have some issues, and one of those is the shadows. And part of the problem with the shadows is we're just not going to see a lot from this distance because I've adjusted the field of view to 25, so we're kind of zoomed out, which is what you typically are going to want to do on a photo composite with an aerial. But also these trees, they were casting shadows in our original image, and we need them to cast shadows here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to vegetation. We're going to find some trees. They don't have to be perfect, but we do want to cast some shadows. Attach them to a section, and then we're going to bring them over. You can see here, this is much smaller. And so we want to make this tree much bigger. And we can zoom in if we want to, make sure it's casting a shadow. And we can see here the shadows are kind of going from right to left. So we need to adjust our environment, time of day, and rotate out something like this. And then we can just scale that up to kind of cover what's going on. And the trees in the image obviously aren't going to be animated while the shadow is going to be animated, but this is actually something that's kind of nice. Just adds a little bit more movement to your photo or your video, whatever you're trying to do. All right, in version 3, we have options to duplicate the asset. So let's duplicate asset in place, and then we can just move this over and get some more shadows. And then let's do that again. And then this one we want to bring over to this side. And so now if we go back to our matched camera, we're not going to see those shadows again just because we're zoomed out, but they'll show up when we get a little bit closer. And then with those shadows also, to select them, you select the section they're attached to, select them, and then we want to do hide model, and that way we're going to get the shadows, but we're not going to get the geometry, which would be really confusing. All right, and then also we have this bridge here, and so what we're going to do here is we're going to use a dynamic asset. Again, all we want from this is the shadows, and so we can use a box. I'm going to create a template, and then it shows up here, and then we can click and drag it. So now we have this box here, and now we can scale it and kind of match where it is so that it will cast a shadow down on the road. So let's make this box much bigger, and we're gonna make it much flatter, and then rotate it around. So we want to uncheck the scale so that we can get it the dimensions we want. And then the Z, we can make this much flatter. All right, so this is looking more like our bridge, and we just need to rotate it. And then put it in place by going back to our camera match and then adjusting and making sure it's in the right place and the right rotation.
Ain't nobody wears, every click is street melody. Flash the scene.
All right, once we get the new bridge, again, this is just to cast the shadow, we're going to hide the model, and then that way we'll get that shadow, as we can see here, without making it look like it's being cast from the image in the aerial. All right, and then just to show some of the other things you can do, if we want to go to assets, go to library assets, and if you just want to search for, or if you just want to go to vehicle, you can go to vehicle, and let's just select something, and we can put this in the parking lot. So you got to make sure it's attached to a section, and then from there we can adjust it, put it in this parking lot, and we can start to populate our image with other elements if we want, whether it be trees or cars or people, and they'll all cast shadows the way they can. So this can add either more realism, more blending, or maybe you're just trying to match something in the photo or add new elements. All those can be reasons that you want to put some more things, 3D objects in your image. So now you see this car down in the bottom left. Zoom way in so you can see that, and it's going to be in that parking stall when we go back to our camera like we have here. All right, and another note too, when I was building this out, you'll see I have this left turn lane, and I did it in a way where I put a stop bar. You do that by going to traffic, putting a stop bar, and so it looks like they're slowing down for a left turn, which I think is really cool. And then they'll go through, and in our mind it looks like they're going to go through and turn, even though they're not really doing that. And then I just need to adjust the striping here a little bit. So now we're going to save it, and then we're going to start doing some test renders and then move on to our final renders. All right, so this is looking really cool. And now we want to make sure and save it, because now we're going to do another trick, and that's to make our train go across the top. And you can't do that within Beyond Typicals, but we can render it, and then in photo editing, in video editing, we can combine the two. So we want to go back to, make sure you save it first, because once we switch back to blank, it's going to delete our other project. And we want to go to settings and shut off our total width again. And we want to import those aerials. Adjust to 4K again, adjust to 1.1 again. So we have roughly the same thing, but now we want to put train tracks on top of this. So we go to sections, and we want to go to rail. Let's do this high-speed rail. We also have dynamic rail assets we could use as well. And actually we want to put all of our photos to the back. Let's put foreground to the back, because we want this to be on top. And we want to get this situated and get our length. This one's going to need to be longer. Maybe let's try 600 feet. And then we want to duplicate this. And we're going to need to put an invisible section between them. Just want to go here, invisible section. Like this. And let's flip the directions of one of these. Adjust our field of view back to the 25 from before, and then do camera matching. All right, then we want to make all this stuff disappear, all these materials, so that we're just seeing through to the aerial.
Stitch with ease, digital tapestry weaving, city's breath in every megapixel, it's the beauty we're achieving. I know this moment.
All right, so now we can render out this segment by going to rendering. We want to do 20 seconds again. Have all the other same settings. And I totally understand that these trains probably are not in Columbus, Ohio. It probably looks like something completely different. But I'm trying to do this to show you that you can do some more complex things, including adding rail on an aerial if you need to, especially if the aerial is adjacent to your photo or your video. And then we take this video and we take it into, I'm going to use Premiere Rush in this example. This is just something I use a lot because it's really easy to use. And using Premiere Rush, we can just crop out this middle section because everything's static. We don't need to do any camera matching. And now we have, as you can see here, we have the cars going under the bridge. We have the rail going over the bridge in somewhat perpendicular manner. And it ends up being a pretty cool result. If you have any questions about this, make sure to reach out. Go to our website, beyondcad.com, and click the Contact Us button, and we would love to meet with you and answer questions. That stands for both existing customers, if you want to do something like this, or if you are not a customer and you want to learn more about Beyond Typicals, we'd love to jump on a call with you and teach you more. This video took me about a half an hour, give or take. I'm going to look at the clock here in just a minute. And this is what you can do with Beyond Typicals. Beautiful animated aerials in less than an hour, which is absolutely amazing. My name is Sam Lytle, and I will talk to you in the next one.